I've got two slides here that I want to cover before I go into a live demonstration of the product, and this kind of helps set the stage for where we fit within your process. On the right-hand side of the screen here, you can see we have events and products and systems. These could be remedy trouble ticketing for incident and change, could be network monitoring, could be system management, BPPM, other products that are managing your environment. On the left-hand side are the people that need to know what's going on. The individuals within IT could be employees within the company. It could also be customers outside of the company that are affected by any kind of an outage. And what happens is these people are now mobile, obviously. They're not all just sitting there staring at a console. And when things do occur, they may need to collaborate. They may need to get people together to solve the problem. So what's missing in the middle is this enterprise communication platform that we've created. And on top of that are what we call relevance engines. Relevance engines are purpose-built engines for a specific reason or business purpose to help find the right person at the right time on the right device. We have a business continuity management relevance engine that will find employees for disasters, things like that. IT relevance engine, which was what we'll focus on today, and we also have a customer relevance engine that can get information out to customers about situations. So let's dive into the IT relevance engine. Again, on the right-hand side is a product, and again, today we're going to use Remedy as our example. I've got a Remedy incident going on, and over on the left-hand side are our individuals. So let's say we do have a ticket that was created about a Unix server, and that Unix server went down, and on the left-hand side over here I have 10 Unix admins. What most people would do is have Remedy send out a bunch of emails to those 10 people. So I sent out 10 emails, maybe 10 text messages, and hope that somebody does something about the ticket. That's what we tend to call the send and hope method. I'm going to send it to everybody and hope somebody does something, right? Well, what we do is we have a relevance engine, and that relevance engine sits between those products, such as Remedy, and the individuals being notified. We allow the individuals to define what matters to them. So they define their device notifications, their on-call list, their rotation schedule, escalation process. All that information is in the relevance engine. So when an event does occur, let's say a ticket needs to be assigned or a change needs to be approved, that information automatically goes from Remedy to the relevance engine, and we find the right person based on schedules, responsibilities, etc. We will then notify that person over any device they choose, whether it's text, email, BlackBerry, iPhone, voice over phone, kitchen phone, anything. We don't care whatever it is, whatever that person wants, we'll deliver them a notification. Now the key here is that I don't want to notify everybody. So if we have that Unix admin problem that we had earlier where I've got a Unix server down, I've got 10 Unix admins, I'm only going to notify the first guy in that group, the first one that's on call, on whatever device he chooses. Now we're requiring that person to respond. So they need to respond over SMS, email, voice over phone, whatever it is, any device they can respond on. When they respond, the xMatters relevance engine goes in and updates the Remedy ticket. So it will assign the ticket to them and change the state of the ticket. If they don't respond in a certain amount of time, we can move on to the next person through the escalation process and so on. But assuming that guy did respond, and he was the first of 10 people, that means that we will not notify the other 9 people. So one of the most important things about our relevance engine is knowing when to not notify people. We're trying to get rid of all that noise with everybody getting notified about everything all the time and only finding the relevant person at the right time on the right device and letting them take an action. Now that's a full circle for IT where I've got some kind of an issue, a ticket, let's say in Remedy. I've found the right person and I'm letting that person interact back to Remedy. But we also have other individuals out here. So these individuals can be people outside of IT. This could be an executive that defines what matters to them. Maybe it's an executive that says, hey, when the mail server is down, I want a phone call. That can be put into the system so they can automatically get a phone call telling them when the mail server is down. So we can proactively notify those end users instead of waiting for them to call the help desk. All right? And this individual on a third level can also be people outside of the company. Maybe affected customers or end users need to know some information about an outage. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the product. Where I was going to start is let's go ahead and jump into Remedy. So here we have a typical Remedy ticket. Ticket's been created with certain fields filled out, and that's all great, right? The most important thing is down here at the assigned group level, right? Typically, you're assigning a ticket to a group, not a person. So you notice the field underneath, the assignee field, is empty because I don't know if it's Bob, Mary, Joe, or Jim that's going to go fix this ticket yet. All I know is it needs to go to network operations. And again, let's just assume there's 10 people in that group. So instead of sending out 10 emails, what we're going to do is the information will automatically be sent to the xMatters relevance engine. We figure out who's on call in that group and start an orderly, targeted notifications process. We also put an audit trail within the work detail of the ticket. So here we can see Bob Smith received an SMS message on his phone. He also received an email notification, and all the notifications would show up here within the work detail. If you got a phone call, whatever. If Bob responds, that'll show up here in the audit trail. If Bob doesn't respond and we move on to Mary, you'll see Mary being notified on her devices. So this audit trail is actually very important because today, when you send a bunch of emails to everybody, it really doesn't matter for an audit trail because you never know if they're ever going to see the email, when they're going to see it, when they're going to be at their desktop, who knows. So it really doesn't matter because you're kind of blasting it to everybody anyway. Now that we're going through a targeted process, it's very important to have an audit trail to know exactly who was notified at what time, on what device, and if they responded. Okay? So let's go ahead and pretend that we're Bob. He's out running around in the grocery store with the device in his pocket and the device goes off. And again, this could be a text message, could be an email, could be a voice phone call. In this case, we're looking at an email. So we can see all the detailed information coming from Remedy. I've got the incident ID, the summary, the impact, all that good stuff. But the most important thing is down at the bottom. I need Bob to do something. I need him to respond with one of these options, and these are modifiable during implementation. But out of the box, what we give is 3 options. The first one is accept. That means assign the ticket to me, stop all further notifications. So that one's pretty obvious. The next one is ignore. What that means is, hey, I'm too busy. I can't deal with this. I'm going to go ahead and respond with ignore, which will put a message in the audit trail, and then it will immediately move on to the next person in the list, not waiting for the escalation time to happen, so I can speed the process up. And the third option is actually fairly interesting, selecting resolved. Let's say that I accepted this ticket and I went and worked on the problem, and an hour later I fixed what the problem is. What I can do is come back to the same message and reply a second time with the resolved option and change the status of the ticket remotely without having to go to Remedy. Okay, so just a quick way of letting somebody change ticket status from their device. So in this particular case, Bob's going to go ahead and accept this ticket. He's going to select accept on his device. We go back over to Remedy and do a quick refresh here, and we'll see there's more information in the audit trail of the work detail. We can see that it was accepted by Bob on a certain device. We can also see the status has changed to in progress. So if I go to the left-hand side of the ticket over here, we can see Bob's name is now in the assignee field, and we have stopped all further notifications. So if there really were 10 people in that group, 9 people were not notified, woken up, emailed, bothered. We don't need any of them because Bob took responsibility. Okay, so extremely efficient in a targeted fashion as opposed to the send and hope or spray and pray options. Okay, so that's how we work with Remedy. Now let's take a look at the product itself. I'm going to go ahead and log in here as me. The product is a service offering. So when I log in, it's going to show me my devices and my personal preferences. I can have as many devices as I want. We will typically synchronize some of this from Active Directory and LDAP or even Remedy to get some of the data in here, like my work email, my work phone, things like that. But as a user, I can add as many devices as I want. So I can have my iPad, my iPhone, my pager, all those various different devices in the product. I can put a preferred order on how I want the system to notify me, along with a time frame. So I can overlay this time frame, for example, my home phone. I don't mind if the system calls me on my home phone, except I only want that to happen on Saturday and Sunday, not during the week. Okay? So very, very flexible in allowing me as a user to define how I'm going to be notified. Basically, this is how to find me. I have a validation column as well that allows me to test each device. When I add a device into the system, I can click on that icon. It'll call, text, email me. When I respond on that device, it changes to a green check mark. So fully self-service, allowing the user to maintain how they're being notified. Now, you're typically not going to notify a single person about an event. That's where groups come into play. And again, these groups would definitely be synchronized with Remedy. So I have the same exact matching groups I'm going to assign to tickets. If we take a look at our Unix admin group here, it could be a simple list of people, or it can be a fairly sophisticated schedule like I've got here with daytime and evenings and weekends. Let's say I want to see who's on call Monday night. I can hover over that and that pops a list. So this shows me that I have 4 people on call, and I have an escalation time in minutes on the left-hand side of that box. So basically what will happen is if I have a Unix admin ticket, it's going to notify Calvin on his devices first, and only Calvin. We're giving Calvin 20 minutes to respond. If he responds in 20 minutes, we're done. We don't have to bother anybody else. If he doesn't respond in 20 minutes, we move on to Art on his devices. And we go through this process until somebody assigns a ticket. I can go with any kind of escalation times I want or any number of people. I can actually go from group to group. I can also have rotating escalations. So maybe every Tuesday I take the guy from the top of the list, move him down to the bottom, and everybody else moves up. And they can do that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Okay, so fully automated. The other thing here is this is another self-service area. So the manager of these people can maintain this schedule. They can click on any day, any time, change people around however they want, completely in control themselves. Now, one of the things that may come up is, what happens if I wake up sick today? Or what happens if I go on vacation? Well, my manager can change the groups that I'm in. We just saw that. However, as a user, we actually have a feature called temporary replacement. And it allows me to come in here and say, here's my teams or my groups that I'm in. I'm going to have Mary sit in for me from this day to this day during certain hours. And what will happen as soon as I hit save, Mary and my manager get an email explaining what I've done. And what I've done here is Mary will be notified on her devices for all of my events during those days and hours. So very, very easy. Couple of clicks, and I've got somebody covering me for a 2-hour doctor appointment, for a day I'm off, whatever it is. Okay. Now, one of the things I talked about a little bit earlier was the ability to notify business users. We have a feature called subscriptions. This allows you to build a custom panel that allows certain people to sign up for informational alerts on their own. Now, this is a very rough example here where I've got 3 different fields, but it can be any number of fields. It could be pull-down lists, it could be cascading menus, whatever you want. This is basically HTML, so I can make this look and feel the way I want. And let's say I'm the accounting manager. I come in here and I say, whenever accounting has a critical incident created, I'd like to know about it. And when that happens, I want a phone call, I want an email, and I only care about it during the week. Right? So you've just allowed me to define when I get the notification, how it's delivered, and what it is that's being delivered to me. When I get tired of this, I can unsubscribe on my own, or I can change it to something else. Maybe I want to know when a change has failed on the accounting system. So very, very powerful in allowing people to get their own informational notifications without having to ask you. There's a bunch of reports within the product. I'm not going to go through all those. There is one in particular that I do want to touch on. It's called our Group Performance Report. And this is for the managers of the system. This is not something that an administrator needs to go in. If I happen to be the application support manager, I can actually bring up a real-time report showing all my employees how many events they've received, how many notifications they've received, how long it took for them to respond to the notification, what was the maximum time it took to respond, how many times they escalate from person to person, and if they escalated to me as a manager, that would show up here as well. So in looking at this, I can sort this in certain ways, and maybe I'm sorting on the time to respond here in minutes. What this does is this shows me fairly quickly that all my employees respond within 1 to 2 minutes on average to their notifications, except for Brian. Brian over here is my problem, and he's the one that takes on average 13.5 minutes to respond, much longer than the rest. He actually caused a 28-minute outage once. Okay, so very, very visible to me as a manager. I can sit Brian down and ask him what the problem is. Maybe he's too busy, or maybe his device doesn't work, or maybe he just doesn't care or something, but he's way off the standard from everybody else in the group. And I've got that data in real time at any point, and I can export it to an Excel spreadsheet if I want. Okay, so that's a little touch on reporting. The last area I was going to touch on here is messaging. So we've talked about automated notifications coming out of Remedy. We're hunting people down for incidents or changes. We're letting them interact with the system. Everything happens automatically. However, there will be situations where I need to kick off a manual process, like I need an Oracle DBA now, right? What most people would do is if they need an Oracle DBA or somebody with a certain skill, they're going to go grab a spreadsheet or an on-call list somewhere. They're going to look up who's on call right now. They see that it's Joe. They go look up Joe's phone number. They call Joe. He's not there. They move back to the spreadsheet. Who's on call next, and so on and so on. Every data center does this every day. When they need somebody with a certain skill, they're trying to figure out who to get a hold of, and they start this process manually. With the xMatters Relevance Engine, I type my message up in this box. I type in the group that I need. There's my Oracle DBAs. I hit send, and I'm done.